What's up guys, Clausenex here. I can see you just clicked on the link for my muscular dystrophy video. The reason I'm posting this video to my page is because I had to make a presentation for one of my university classes on teaching and education, and I took kind of a kinesiology approach to it, and it had to be in regards to learning disabilities, and since I'm in the education faculty as well, I had to give it a teaching approach. So in case you're wondering why I made such a different video from my usual ones. But if you're interested in learning a little bit about muscular dystrophy, or I guess how to approach that from a teaching perspective, feel free to watch the video and yeah, let me know what you think. Oh, one other thing too guys, I got an A+ on this. I got 100% as a grade, so you can trust me that this is all valid information. Thanks guys.
Hey there, my name is Zach Clausen, and this is my presentation on muscular dystrophy. Muscular dystrophy is a disease that a lot of people have heard about, but not everyone knows a whole lot about what it actually is. It comes in a variety of forms and types, so chances are you've already seen it. The characteristics of muscular dystrophy are very visible to the eye, as it is a physical disability. But before we get too much into what it looks like, let me explain to you first how it works. So muscular dystrophy is a hereditary disease, meaning it can be passed down from a parent. It is caused by defective mutated genes, and these genes go defective at some point during the child's development. What muscular dystrophy is essentially the wasting away of skeletal muscle, but often affect the cardiac and smooth muscle as well as other muscle tissue. As muscular dystrophy affects primarily the pelvic girdle and leg muscles, it's easy to tell if someone is affected by muscular dystrophy. The signs of muscular dystrophy differ, as there are a variety of forms and types, and what distinguishes one muscular dystrophy type from another varies on what kind of type it is. Some dystrophies affect the child at a more progressive rate, like the Duchenne type. Types like the Duchenne type will leave a child crippled. So that being said, some types of muscular dystrophy end up with a child in a wheelchair or needing crutches or some form of aid to get around. But not all cases of muscular dystrophy leave a kid crippled. There are other types like Becker's type and the Myotonic type that have a slower and less obvious effect. So someone affected by one of those two types, you might see them with a limp or just struggling to get around. There will be a visible struggle in what should be a natural movement, but this will be seen mostly into late adulthood. How obvious the characteristics are depend on how far along the individual is with this dystrophy, and just how much muscle has been affected. So in any case, the affected child will need help getting up inclined areas like steps or anything of that nature. Even something as simple as a hand railing can be of huge aid to someone with a dystrophy as something to hold on to and brace themselves with. Next, I'll explain the different types of muscular dystrophy so you future teachers can know potentially what you're working with. So the first type we'll discuss is the myotonic type, also known as MMD or Steinhart's disease. It is the most common form of muscular dystrophy and can affect both men and women. The myotonic type progresses slowly throughout the individual's life. It has two different types, type 1 and type 2. Okay, the next type we'll talk about is Becker type. It is another muscular dystrophy type that gets progressively worse over time. Typically starts between the age of 5 and 15 and affects primarily the legs and pelvis. By age 23 to 50, the individual is usually unable to walk. The individual over time will lose muscle mass and gain muscle weakness. The Duchenne type is one of the most severe types of muscular dystrophy. It is most common in children and primarily in boys. The boy will be expected to be in a wheelchair by the age of 12, so it's likely that you will experience one in your school. The Duchenne type progresses at a rapid rate, and it's common that the child will die before they reach the age of 20. A child with the Duchenne type will most likely spend most of their life in the school, so what you do with that child will make a big impact on most of their life. The next type is the limb girdle type, and it affects primarily the shoulder or pelvic girdle. After the age of 20, other muscles start to get involved. There's also the Fascioscapulo-Humeral type. This affects primarily the facial and shoulder girdle muscles. It will eventually spread to the pelvic girdle. Sometimes it's not noticed at first, but will increase in intensity over time. The congenital type of muscular dystrophy affects the individual right at birth. The Oculopharyngeal type affects the individual's eyes or throat and appears in the late adulthood. The distal type of dystrophy affects the muscles farthest away from the body or the trunk and progressively works its way in. Lastly, there's the Emery-Dreifuss type. This type only appears in males and will be facing life-threatening heart problems for the entirety of their lives. Since muscular dystrophy is a genetic caused issue, there is no one cure-all treatment. With any individual that has muscular dystrophy, a holistic lifestyle should be encouraged. And that's something that every teacher has in the power to do regardless of what they're teaching. The promotion and maintenance of health can make a great impact on someone suffering from muscular dystrophy and can help increase the overall health of the individual. Regular exercise is always a good option, however, it cannot be vigorous in any way. This information can be quite helpful if you're going into the teaching field that I am, which is physical education. Physical education teachers have a chance to help improve a child with muscular dystrophy more than any other teacher does. And they have a good chance to not only help, but even make it better. A phys ed teacher should keep exercises for a child affected by muscular dystrophy passive, slow, and in control. If the exercise is passive and in control, it can actually help to give those muscles a bit more strength and preserve them from progressing worse. Recreational activity is a good option because it takes the attention away from the disorder itself, and it can help the kid focus more into the game and having fun with friends. And when their focus is taken away from their own disorder, it can help them focus on more being active and having fun with their friends versus standing out as an individual with a disorder. That being said, gym class can be an awesome place for a child with muscular dystrophy if it's approached correctly. The affected child could be given a role or position in gym class that won't be as strenuous on their muscles as other ones, depending on the activity. So the role they could have in a gym class could be just a role that requires less movement and can help them work more on their fine motor skills and other skill development. An example of this might be the umpire in kick baseball or a goalie in hockey. If the child has a much more progressive rate or severe type of muscular dystrophy, a position like scorekeeping or referee could be given to them so that they're still taking part in the activity. Another good option for someone with muscular dystrophy in your class would be substituting equipment that is more usable and less dangerous towards a kid. For example, if you're going to play dodgeball or floor hockey, play with a softer ball. If, for example, the school that the teacher is working in has a pool, water activity is an awesome option for someone with muscular dystrophy. The buoyancy factor in the water takes the weight off of the muscles so the child can participate without the constant worry of gravity and putting weight on their legs. Aside from exercise, the child can benefit a lot from regular stretching and physiotherapy. Anyone with tight muscles, disorders aside, is likely to build up a higher risk factor for getting injured. So staying loose is key in someone who has muscular dystrophy. Fortunately, in most schools, Canada's food guide is given out and encouraged to the students, and in every classroom, a healthy lifestyle should be encouraged. A clean diet can make a wonder of difference for someone with muscle disorder. When food is seen as a source of energy and a fuel for muscles, it is easy to see how filling your body with a nutritious diet can make a world of difference for someone who has a disorder in their muscles. A clean diet will help keep muscles as strong as possible. Teaching the class about the nervous system and the muscular system can also help the students get more educated on what can cause a disorder and what can help it, and help the whole classroom understand why a student might have a disorder and how to treat them just as a normal person. As muscular dystrophy can affect someone in a lot of different ways, that means that they will require support in a lot of different ways. Some kids will have learning impairments as a result of their disorder, whereas other ones will be able to still sustain a high IQ. IQ aside though, there are a lot of factors that have to be considered when you have a child in your classroom with muscular dystrophy. The primary factor is movement. Take a child with Duchenne type dystrophy, for example. They will be on a wheelchair, and you'll have the constant factor of having a child in your classroom with a wheelchair to take into account. This means, for example, your school will probably need to have ramps to get into the doors or elevators to avoid the child from having to take the steps. The amount of steps in a school alone can be a huge factor to a child who has muscular dystrophy. A child being placed in a normal class might not even be an option for someone who has muscular dystrophy to a very severe extent. For example, a boy with Duchenne type will be highly vulnerable to other diseases, and it is almost inevitable that they will be placed in a school for the physically disabled. Physical disabilities aside, the child also has a lot of other factors to take into account of. With all the physical disabilities, there will be frustrations and other emotions going through them. Frustration, anxiety, fear, guilt, anger, and depression are all regular emotions for a child who has muscular dystrophy. It would be a great burden for a child to not be able to move around as easily as other kids and not be able to do all the same things other kids can do. Certain types of muscular dystrophy may even leave the child unable to speak. Having a child with muscular dystrophy will require a lot of patience. Friendships will really help a child in the classroom deal with those feelings of isolation and other depressive emotion. It's important to consider that despite how the child looks on the outside, they will probably be dealing with a lot of emotions inside and will be used to suppressing them. So encouragement should always be supported to aid in their frustration. So as hard as it may be as a teacher, you, along with friends and family of the student, should try their best not to make the student feel like they're standing out. And like any other adult or healthy child, an affected student with muscular dystrophy does have a self-esteem, and it's important that they feel positive about themselves. So it is important to remember that while compensating them for their dystrophy, you should also treat them as a normal student and not make them feel like an outsider. So here are some teaching tips for you to carry with you if you have a student in your class with this muscular dystrophy. Here's some key points for you to take into account of as a teacher. It's important to remember to have patience with them, provide proper seating for the student in the classroom. By this I mean a chair that offers back and arm support, it's not too far from the teacher's desk, and provides an easier path to and from the door. You could also give them pre-made notes so they don't struggle in the classroom to keep up, or give them a note taker. You could give them partner activities so that they have more chance to be involved with other students and also to keep up with the classroom. Ask the child if they need help before giving it. They are capable to certain extents of completing their work, so you don't want to necessarily make them feel like they're being babied. Break down information into easier steps for understanding. Visual representations are always good for a student with this disorder. Plan in advance your strategies of accommodation. Provide emotional and physical support. Treat with respect and care. Don't make the student stand out if possible. Provide a comfortable learning environment. Plan in advance. There's a variety of muscular dystrophy types, and each require their own tailoring for a student to have success. In conclusion, someone with muscular dystrophy will need support from you as a teacher, physically and emotionally. Okay, that was my presentation on muscular dystrophy. Thank you for your time. Hope you guys learned something.
Okay, there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to please give me a subscribe. I'd really love to have this page as something big and something great. I can't do that without your subscription. So give it a like and a comment, and stay tuned for more videos. Thanks, guys. Peace out.